The Art of Manipulation by R.B Sparkman isn't just another book on psychology. It's a quiet masterclass on human behavior, silent influence, and how to protect yourself in a world full of hidden games. Through sharp conversations between two characters, Sparkman and Hudy, you'll uncover how people use words, silence, kindness, even guilt, as tools to control outcomes. This isn't about being fake. It's about becoming aware. It's about understanding others so deeply that no one can take advantage of your kindness again. So if you've ever felt manipulated, misunderstood, or just too nice in a world that plays hard, this book is for you. Make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and hit that subscribe button for more powerful audiobooks that sharpen your thinking and strengthen your mind. Imagine if you had a secret skill, the power to get anyone to do exactly what you want. Be it your boss, your partner, a client, or even a total stranger. No, it's not magic. It's the art of understanding the human mind, the art of manipulation. Let's begin with a harsh truth. In this world, just 5% of people control the other 95%. These people aren't born special. They've simply figured out how the human brain works. Meanwhile, the rest just keep wondering, I'm a good person, so why don't I succeed? I do good for everyone, then why do I keep getting betrayed? This book isn't about motivational fluff. It's about real people who learned life's toughest lessons on the streets, through deception, betrayal, and survival. The author, R.B Sparkman, was once just like the rest of us, fooled, cheated, manipulated. But one day, he decided to stop being the victim and start learning how the game is really played. He spent years among hustlers, drunks, slick salesmen, and master manipulators. And what he discovered, he documented here, raw, honest, and brutally useful truths. You'll learn how to get people to agree with you without forcing them, how to spot their emotional weaknesses and use them as leverage, how to guide someone into saying yes, even when they want to say no, and how to get what you want without ever seeming cruel. Maybe you've been used by someone who played with your emotions. Maybe at work, someone stole credit for your hard work. Or maybe in love, someone simply used you and walked away. It's time now to stop being blind, to learn what others are really thinking, and to become sharper in every relationship, every deal, and every conversation. Manipulation is an art, and once you master it, it can completely change your life. So, let's dive into the first chapter of The Art of Manipulation, where we uncover a shocking truth. Only 5% of people pull the strings. The other 95% are just dancing to the tune. Now let's begin. If you show someone that you need them, you'll lose. But if you subtly show them that they need you, that's when they surrender to you on their own. So what's the key? Stop listening to people's words. Start reading their behavior. Never appear desperate, even if deep down you're falling apart. Increase your value and let others feel it without ever saying it. And most importantly, learn to control your reactions. Because a true manipulator is someone who can read the moves of others, but never reveal their own. It's time now. Time to learn how to become one of the 5% who run the world, and not the 95% who are just run over by it. How to spot a manipulator before they trap you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you gave everything to? Maybe they earned your trust, made you feel safe, only to slowly take advantage and walk away with everything? This chapter shows you how to spot people like that, before it's too late. The author, R.B Sparkman, once had a roommate named Hudy, a drunk, but dangerously clever. Hudy could wrap people around his finger without them even realizing it. One night, Hudy got arrested, caught drunk and thrown into jail. From his cell, he called Sparkman and said, "Man, you're my true friend. Just help me one last time. I swear I'll pay you back. You're a good man. I'll never forget this." Sparkman gave in. He bailed Hudy out. The money never came back. First warning sign? Anyone who overdoes trust talk is often the one you should never trust. Hudy kept saying, "You're my real friend. You're the only one I trust. I always return money." But in the real world, the truly honest ones, they don't need to say it again and again. As Shakespeare once wrote, "The lady doth protest too much." If someone keeps insisting they're honest, you should pause. Something's off. And it's not just about money. It's true in relationships too. If someone keeps saying, "I love you more than anything," or "you can trust me blindly," ask yourself, are they saying it or proving it? Because the one who truly means it never needs to repeat it. Second red flag, if someone lies to others, they will lie to you too when it suits them. Hudy taught Sparkman this hard truth. Many people say, oh, he lies to others, but he'd never lie to me. But here's the truth. If lying is their habit, you're not an exception. You're just next. Third clue. If someone keeps telling you, I was once rich, or I used to have everything, but I lost it all, that line is never random. It's designed to gain sympathy and credibility. We tend to think, if he used to be successful, he probably knows how to make money. But in truth, if someone doesn't know how to manage money, their past riches mean nothing. One of the hustlers Sparkman met said, Rick, I'd never betray a friend. To which Sparkman replied, you already ended our friendship. Betrayal now is easy. Here's a master trick Hudy often used. If someone tells you the same story more than once, listen carefully. Compare the details. If the story doesn't match, you're talking to a liar, and sooner or later, that lie will cost you. This chapter teaches us, never trust someone who says, trust me, too often. Never trust someone who lies to others, because they'll lie to you too. And never be fooled by someone who says, I used to be rich. Chances are, they're now the most broken. Also, watch out for those who overreact to small things, like clothes, time, or tone, but stay silent on bigger issues. They're not leaders. They're emotional manipulators in disguise. Getting fooled again and again is not wisdom. Real wisdom is recognizing the signs before it happens. And now, the next chapter will show you how to make someone emotionally attached to you without yelling, forcing, or controlling them, just by understanding how they're wired inside. Chapter 3. The slow emotional buildup. Have you ever loved someone so much that you put your dignity, your time, even your self-respect on the line, just to see them smile? And yet, they kept lifting you up one moment, only to drop you the next. Still, you chased them, again and again. Why? One day, the author R.B Sparkman met a woman, beautiful, confident, different from anyone he'd ever known. But when she sat beside him, he noticed a light bruise below her left eye. When he asked about it, she softly replied, my boyfriend Bill hit me, but I just can't stay away from him. Shocking, right? Bill loved her. Bill hurt her. Bill held her close, then ignored her the next day. And still, she stayed. She ran after him. Why would anyone stay with someone who keeps breaking them? The answer to why people stay in toxic relationships was found inside a cage. Not a human one, a pigeon's. It came from a psychological experiment that exposed a deep truth about how our minds work. A pigeon was placed in a cage with a button. If it pecked the button, it received a food pellet. Now, 3 conditions were tested. When the pigeon received food every time it pressed the button, it eventually lost interest. When it received nothing at all, it gave up altogether. But when the food came sometimes and sometimes didn't, the pigeon became obsessed. It kept pecking the button again and again, like it was addicted. This pattern is called intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. That's exactly what Bill was doing to the girl. He'd give her love, then suddenly pull away. One day, he'd lift her up high with affection. The next, he'd drop her with indifference. She became emotionally trapped, like the pigeon, hooked on uncertainty. That's the most dangerous kind of game. Sometimes giving attention and then taking it away. When a person doesn't know what's coming next, they start craving the one who confuses them. The constant lover gets taken for granted, but the one who gives love inconsistently becomes addictive. Maybe you've been through it too. That one relationship that kept breaking you, and yet you couldn't leave. Because sometimes that person gave you the very thing you longed for. Love, attention, validation. So how do you use this psychology to influence others without force? There's a formula. Just 2 steps. Step 1, give reinforcement. This could be love, praise, emotional support, or even a favor. Let the other person get used to your positivity. Step 2, withdraw it. Go silent. Be distant. Turn cold, just a little. Now they'll chase that warmth again. Let's say you message someone daily. They reply, you talk, everything's flowing. Then suddenly, you stop replying. They'll become restless. What happened? Did I say something wrong? They'll start chasing you. Same with an employee. Praise them every day, and they'll stop valuing it. But if you occasionally praise them, or drop a surprise bonus, or go a little tough sometimes, they'll work harder to earn your approval. But here's the catch. Intermittent reinforcement only works if your praise or love holds real value to them. If they never cared in the first place, your silence means nothing. Maybe Bill never studied psychology, but he knew the formula. A little love, a little fear, a little confusion. And that girl was his, completely hooked. This chapter teaches us a powerful truth. People don't value what's always available. They crave what keeps them uncertain. Intermittent reinforcement is a psychological weapon. It can emotionally addict people to you. Because sometimes it's not love, it's the habit of chasing someone that makes us their slave. And now you can create that habit without shouting, without begging, without humiliation, just by understanding human behavior. Now let's move to the next chapter, one that reveals how favoritism runs the world and how you can make it work in your favor. Chapter 4. The world is rife with favoritism. Ever worked harder than someone and still saw them getting promoted? Ever watched a colleague who lies and sweet talks their way through while you, speaking the truth, get ignored? If that's happened to you, welcome to the real world. A world where it's not always skill that wins, it's connection. R.B Sparkman once came across a survey of top professionals, CEOs, managers, entrepreneurs. They were asked, what's the biggest reason behind your success? The majority didn't say hard work. They didn't say talent. They said, I built the right relationships with the right people. In simple words, favoritism. Is it unfair? Not really. It's human nature. We all gravitate toward people we like. A boss promotes the one he's emotionally connected to. A client chooses the vendor who makes him laugh. We trust those we vibe with. That's the game of favoritism. Now, you've got two choices. You can sit back and complain. The world is biased. Or you can turn that bias into your advantage. Sparkman worked in sales at a classical music radio station. One of his clients was a young entrepreneur named Steve. Steve had started his own record shop, going head-to-head with big, established brands. No fancy degree, no industry backing, just pure grit and passion. But Sparkman had a problem. He had to make a deal with Steve, and they had zero connection. So what did he do? He simply asked one honest human question. Steve, how did you even start this record shop? And that was it. Steve opened up. For hours, he poured his heart out, telling the story of struggle, of fighting alone, of keeping his dream alive without money, just fire in his soul. What did Sparkman learn? The one thing people love most is talking about themselves. Steve began to like Sparkman, not because of the sales pitch, but because Sparkman had drawn out the hero within him. That same day, Steve didn't just sign the ad contract. He took Sparkman out for dinner. So, how do you use favoritism in your favor? First, smile, but not the fake kind. People can spot a forced smile from a mile away. A real smile, with eye contact and warmth, subconsciously builds connection. Smiling is the shortcut to favoritism. Next, give genuine compliments. Not flattery, real specific praise. Something like, sir, that insight you gave in our last meeting, I actually used it, and it worked. Now you're no longer background noise. You've become someone worth listening to. Then, ask 3 simple but powerful questions that let the other person shine. 1, how did you start this business? 2, when did you face your toughest moment? 3, how did you build so much confidence? People crave to tell their story. Give them the chance, and they'll remember you. The author says, when someone else becomes the boss's favorite, we call them a suck-up. But when we become the favorite, we call it smart networking. It's all about perspective. Change your lens, and the whole game changes. The biggest lesson here? No matter how talented you are, if the person in front of you doesn't like you, you'll be left behind. But if you become their favorite the right way, doors open effortlessly. Yes, the world is biased, but that same bias can be your most powerful weapon if you learn to touch people's hearts. Chapter 5, The Essence of Manipulation. It's 7 p.m. in a dusty trailer office in Houston, Texas. A man sits in a stained t-shirt, holding a half-empty can of beer and wearing a devilish smile. His name? Hudy, a master of psychological games. He didn't have a real job. He drank. And somehow, he sold people things they didn't even need. Cars, land, shares, you name it. The strangest part? His clients would thank him afterward, as if he'd done them a favor. One day, the author asked, Hudy, what do you do that makes people unable to say no to you? Hudy sipped the last of his beer, grinned, and said, simple, man. I make them feel like I don't need them. They need me. And that's where the real game begins. The root of manipulation. I don't need you. You need me. It's a subtle mental trick. The moment you want something, be it love, attention, approval, or a deal, you start to look desperate. And human nature? It's cruel. If you think you're not worthy, the world agrees. But when you gently show someone, I'm talking to you, but I don't need to, the tables turn. The same person who is ready to reject you starts leaning in. Hudy's love hack? He'd book a cheap motel room before going to bars at night. The author once asked him, what if you don't meet anyone? Hudy laughed and said, I will, because I walk in like I don't care. And that's exactly what draws women in, the ones who don't make them feel needed. Why does this game work? Because humans are wired for one weakness. We chase what we can't have, and we desire those who act like they don't need us. When you make someone feel like you're a bonus, not a necessity, that's power. How does this work in business? Let's say you're negotiating with a client. If you say, please, sir, we really want this deal, you sound weak. But if you say, if it feels like the right fit, let's work together. If not, that's okay. We have other opportunities. You sound confident. Now the client thinks, if they're this secure, maybe they really are worth it. It works the same in relationships. Ever noticed? The one who messages all the time, always available, chasing, usually doesn't get the attention they crave. But the one who's focused, busy, reaches out selectively, that person seems attractive, mysterious, magnetic. Because desperation repels. Independence attracts. Here's the psychology. When someone feels like you don't need them, their ego gets bruised. And when ego hurts, it seeks validation. That's when you pull their attention without saying a single word. The core lesson of this chapter? Until you believe you are important, the world won't either. I don't need you. You need me. That's the emotional power equation. And the one with the power is always the one who needs less. Hudy used to say, when a girl tells you, you don't even like me, do you? That's when you know your arrow hit the right spot. Because real manipulation isn't about force, it's about need. When people begin to feel your value, your voice doesn't just get heard, it gets followed. Now in the next chapter, you'll learn how to control a room, not by dominating it, but by appearing innocent, by saying little and winning silently. Chapter 6, and the meek shall manipulate the earth. In a business meeting, 5 people sat at the table, all dressed sharp, armed with degrees, speaking in big words. And in one quiet corner sat a man who looked simple, shy, soft-spoken, almost forgettable. But by the end of that meeting, he was the one who closed the deal. Why? Because he didn't make noise, he made impact. See, we often assume the loudest, smartest-looking person runs the show, but in reality, the most dangerous player in the room is the one who seems harmless, because we underestimate them, and that's where their power begins. One day, Hudy and Sparkman were sitting in a cafe. A man walked in, wearing worn-out clothes, slippers, messy hair. He looked like someone who had nothing going for him. Hudy nudged the author and said, "Watch this guy. He looks like he knows nothing, but within 5 minutes, he'll get a cigarette on credit, and by tonight, he'll have a girl wrapped around his finger." The author laughed. "Come on, how?" Hudy replied, "Because he never triggers the other person's alert system. He walks in low profile, blends in, and then slowly he finds people's weak spots and closes his fist around them. People don't take him seriously, so he makes his moves silently. He speaks less, so when he does speak, people listen. He never attacks anyone's ego, so no one blocks him. It's a game of psychology. When someone appears humble, shy, or innocent, the other person lets their guard down. They think, what could this guy possibly do? And that's when the game starts. Think about it. How many times has the quietest kid in class topped the exam, or the most low-key colleague suddenly got promoted? Because they don't play the game. They master it. Manipulation trick. Act clueless. Stay sharp. Hudy always said, always act like you know less than you do. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. And in that moment, you found their nerve. How to use this in business. In meetings, don't be the loudest voice. Let others talk first. Let them shine. Let their egos breathe. Then when silence hits, step in. Speak calmly, confidently. That's when your words will carry weight, because you first listened. How does it work in relationships? Don't fight every battle. Let them think you're naive. But deep down, you know exactly when to speak and when to stay silent. Win not with your words, but with your silence. Hudy once told Sparkman, "The more innocent you look, the safer women feel around you. And when they feel safe, you quietly become the king of their heart." Looking weak doesn't always mean defeat. Sometimes it's a strategy. The man who doesn't show off quietly bends the world to his will. Being underestimated is your greatest advantage if you truly know your own strength. Looking harmless doesn't mean you are harmless. It means you're wise. Wise enough to avoid their traps and move your pieces without flashing them. And now comes the next chapter. One of the most important skills of all, how to truly read a person's mind and emotions. How to figure out what they really want. Chapter 7, how to pick a person apart and discover their real motives and feelings. One evening, the author and Sparkman went to a high-end business party. People were everywhere. Big names, big egos, big performances. Everyone smiling, shaking hands, showing off. But Sparkman noticed one man in the corner, smiling, yet his eyes were cold, completely empty of emotion. Sparkman leaned in and asked Hudy, "He looks so good. Everyone seems to like him. Then why do I feel this strange fear in my gut?" Hudy, without even looking, replied, "Because you're not hearing his words, you're reading his emotions. And truth, my friend, it doesn't come from the face, it comes from the eyes." The real game isn't about what people say, it's about why they're saying it. Hearing what someone says, that's easy. Understanding why they're saying it, that's the true art of manipulation. The art of uncovering someone's true motive. Hudy had some simple but powerful tools for reading people. First, watch the pause. Whenever someone is speaking and they suddenly pause, then change their sentence, pay attention. The truth often hides in that silence. For example, I just took a little help from him. What they really wanted to say was money, but they masked it with the word help. That pause? That's where the truth tried to slip out. Second, don't ask directly, ask indirectly. If you ask someone bluntly, "Are you using me?" they'll lie. But if you ask, "If someone helped you, would you return the favor?" that's when their true nature comes out. Hudy used to say, direct questions make people defensive, but indirect ones make them reveal themselves. Third, listen for what keeps repeating. Everyone has a pattern in their speech. If someone always talks about money problems, their motivation is money. If they often mention trust issues, they're emotionally unstable. If they constantly speak of injustice, there's probably anger or a desire for revenge underneath. Sparkman shared a real story. There was a man who always claimed, "I never cheat anyone. I only want the best for others." One day, Sparkman casually asked, "If you had a chance to make $500 by fooling someone, would you take it?" The man laughed and said, "Come on, that's how the world works." Right there, his mask dropped. People always show you who they are. You just need to listen between their words. Manipulation trick, step into their world. Hudy always said, if you want someone to trust you, speak their language. Understand their references. Step into their shoes. Once they feel seen, they open up, and you can see everything inside them. That's when fears, desires, insecurities, and true intentions come to light. Ever been confused in a relationship? You're not sure if someone truly loves you or is just passing time? Instead of asking, "Do you love me?" ask this. If we were apart for a while, would it matter to you? The look on their face will say more than their words ever could. This chapter teaches us something powerful. Don't just listen to what people say. Listen to the emotion beneath their words. Notice what keeps repeating. Watch where they pause. And never ask questions that feel like tests. Ask questions that feel like stories. Hudy once said, if someone smiles too much, they're either hiding something or just obsessed with showing teeth. People can change their tone. They can fake a smile, but their real needs, their desires, and their greed always find a way to leak through. You just have to watch closely. Chapter 8, the Guernsey versus the drama. Should you look strong or feel safe to others? In this world, the one who gets the most isn't the strongest, it's the one who feels trustworthy. That's the truth. One day, Sparkman went with Hudy to a farm. They saw two cows. One was Guernsey, a calm, brown, quiet cow. The other was Brahma, a big, muscular cow with sharp horns and a mean stare. Hudy asked, if you had to get milk, who would you go to? Sparkman replied, Guernsey. She looks safe. Hudy smiled. That is the real secret to manipulation. Here's the point. Looking dangerous or powerful isn't always useful. Looking reliable is far more powerful. Everyone feared the Brahma cow, but no one went near her. Guernsey gave less milk, but everyone trusted her. It's the same with people. Humans admire strength, but they only follow the ones they trust. Manipulation hack. If you want people to come close to you, to listen, to be influenced, don't overpower them. Make yourself approachable. Hudy told Sparkman, "The more I tried to act smart, the more people distanced themselves. But when I became simple, calm, soft-spoken, people started coming to me, and they opened up like books." In professional life, whether you're a boss, a leader, or a salesperson, if you keep flexing authority, people might obey, but they'll stay distant. But if you're warm, calm, and grounded, they'll stay close. And that's where real influence begins. You see, the guy or girl who always shows off might seem cool, but the one who listens, who speaks without ego, is the one people connect with. Hudy once said, "If you act like Brahma, people will keep you behind a fence. But if you act like Guernsey, people will feed you grass with their own hands." People trust those who feel safe, not those who act smart or dominant. If you want to influence, soften yourself. People open up to those who feel non-threatening. The biggest manipulation trick? You only win when they don't see you as a threat, because fear makes people obey for a moment. But trust makes people stay for a lifetime. Chapter 9. How to avoid getting scammed in money matters. Because here's the bitter truth. Most betrayals don't happen in love. They happen in money. And the saddest part? It's usually not a stranger who fools you. It's someone close, a partner, a relative, a friend, someone you trusted blindly, and who turned their back on you without blinking. Once, Sparkman lent $200 to an old friend. The friendship was years old. Trust? Solid. His friend promised, "I swear I'll return it in a week." A week passed, then 2, then a month. And one day, the friend's phone just went dead. Sparkman didn't just lose his money, he lost the friendship too. Now the real question, was it Sparkman's fault or the friend's? Hudy smiled and said, "It wasn't your fault, it was your lack of understanding. You didn't recognize the masks people wear when they ask for money." Tactic number 1, don't listen to someone's philosophy. Watch their track record. If someone says, "I always return money on time," or "I take financial matters very seriously," just remember, the truth doesn't need to defend itself over and over again. The real question isn't, what are they saying? It's, what have they actually done? Practical rule. If someone has already borrowed money from 3 people and never returned it, you'll be the 4th. Tactic number 2. If you have to give money, never treat it as a loan. Treat it as a gift. Hudy used to say, if you give money with the hope of getting it back, you've already lost. But if you assume up front that the money is gone, you won't be hurt, and the other person will live with guilt. Tactic 3. Add a gentle condition. When Sparkman once gave a friend $100, he said, "Hey, return it only when you feel you're in a better place financially. I was actually planning to pay a few bills with this." That friend returned the money in just a few days. Why? Because he wasn't just repaying money. He was repaying Sparkman's kindness. The emotional weight made all the difference. Now, what about business dealings? If someone suddenly becomes too sweet, be alert. If they say, "We'll talk about it later," they're probably not planning to return anything. And if they say, "You're like family, don't talk about money," then brace yourself. Because that line will sting the most when things fall apart. And when it comes to lending money to relatives, either put it in writing or prepare your mind in advance. This money might not come back, because it's better to lose a little money than ruin a long relationship. Give less, but give clearly, with firm terms. Hudy had a saying, if someone says, "You won't understand me," just know they're about to ask for a loan. This chapter teaches us, before giving money, don't look at promises, look at patterns. Don't get emotional, because the cost of emotionally driven lending is often much more than just money. Only give what you can afford to lose, mentally and emotionally, because money doesn't test your character, it reveals theirs. Don't try to change others, just decide one thing, never let yourself be fooled again. Chapter 10, how to plant your ideas in someone's mind without pressure or arguments. Ever tried explaining something to someone with full logic, full passion, but they just don't get it? And then someone else walks in, says the exact same thing in a calm voice, and suddenly the other person agrees. You're left thinking, wait, I said that too. Why didn't it work when I said it? The answer isn't in what you said. It's how, when, and with what tone you said it. Mind control isn't magic. It's science. Hudy used to say, people don't really listen with their minds. They listen with their ego. And if you can bypass that ego, you can quietly rewire the way they think. No fights, no shouting, just quiet influence. There was a time when Sparkman tried warning a friend, the business you're investing in, it's a scam. But the friend got defensive. Oh, you're just jealous. You don't want to see me grow. A few days later, that same friend heard the same warning from someone else. And this time, he agreed. He came back to Sparkman and said, "Man, you were right." But Sparkman didn't get angry. Hudy just smiled and said, sometimes, even the truth sounds wrong if it bruises someone's ego. Tactic 1. Don't argue. Gently guide. If you want to influence someone, avoid direct conflict. Instead, shift their thinking subtly. Make them feel like the idea came from them, because when people believe they've thought of it themselves, they embrace it with pride. Don't say, "You're thinking wrong." Say instead, "Hey, if you looked at it from a different angle, maybe it'd feel a bit different." This way, their ego stays intact and their mind stays open. Tactic 2. Timing is everything. Hudy had a golden rule. Never try to explain things to someone when they're angry. Wait until they're tired, calm, or emotionally open. Because people don't change through logic, they change through emotion. When the heart cracks open, the mind starts listening. Let's say a client isn't convinced by your offer. Don't say, "Our service is the best." Instead, say, "If you feel our solution could save both your time and money, we can implement it step by step." No pressure. Now it feels like his decision. But the path, you gently laid it down. Or suppose your partner always overreacts. Instead of saying, "You always twist the conversation," say, "I feel like there's some misunderstanding between us. What do you think?" Now they won't get defensive. They'll open up. Tactic 3. Silence is louder than argument. Sometimes, saying nothing speaks the loudest. Silence forces the other person to reflect, and in that space, real change begins. Master manipulation tip. Hudy once said, you can't change someone by defeating them, but if you make them feel like the hero, they'll start believing in you. If you win an argument, you may hurt their pride, but if you let them feel like they won, they'll see you as their guide. This chapter teaches us, don't prove others wrong. Help them discover that there might be another way to see things. Don't crush their ego. Just gently stroke it. Timing, tone, trust. These are the 3 T's that help shift someone's mind. Manipulation isn't about pressure. It's about showing someone the path so gently, they think they chose it. When you rise above arguments and speak with wisdom, you don't just win the debate, you win hearts and minds. Chapter 11. How to win 99% of arguments. Arguments are emotional battles. They may start with facts, but they almost always end with ego. And in this war, the winner isn't the loudest voice. It's the calmest mind. Sparkman and Hudy were once sitting in a cafe. Nearby, 2 men were arguing. One was shouting. The other, completely calm. He was just smiling, responding with logic and clarity. 10 minutes later, the one shouting had gone quiet. Hudy turned to Sparkman and smiled. See that? Winning doesn't need volume, it needs strategy. So, how do you win arguments without losing your cool? Tactic 1. Never start by saying, "You're wrong." The moment you say that, the other person's ears shut down and their walls go up. They stop listening and start defending. Instead, try this. There's one angle I came across that gave me a slightly different perspective. Maybe you'll relate to it too. Now you're not attacking their ego, you're offering respectful disagreement, and that lands much deeper. Tactic. Show agreement before presenting your point. Hudy used to say, before sharing your perspective, let the other person feel understood. Start with, "You're right, people do change over time." Then gently add, "But I also feel that some things grow even deeper with time." Now, you've started a conversation, not a conflict. Tactic. Ask questions instead of making statements. If you bluntly say, "That method is wrong," you're triggering a debate. But if you ask, "Have you ever thought about what might happen if we looked at it from the opposite side?" Now, the other person pauses and starts thinking. The goal isn't to teach people what to think, but to make them think for themselves. That's real influence. In one meeting, Sparkman respectfully disagreed with a senior manager. The manager snapped back, but Sparkman responded calmly. Sir, I hear you, and your point makes a lot of sense. But if we even consider this alternative just 2%, we might double our results. The manager paused, then said, I hadn't looked at it that way. The tension dissolved. No argument, just insight. Sparkman won the moment without a fight. In relationships, never say, you always do this. It only leads to blame. Instead, try, when that happens, I feel a little hurt. What do you think about it? Now you've shifted from blaming to sharing, from conflict to connection. At the workplace, when discussions heat up in a team, don't insist on your way. Say something like, let's explore both ideas and then decide. Now you sound like a leader, not someone feeding their ego. Hudy used to joke, if someone suddenly goes quiet during a debate, either you've won or they're imagining dropping something in your tea. This chapter teaches one clear lesson. If you want to win arguments, don't break someone's ego. Keep it intact while guiding their thoughts gently. Questions open minds. Statements build walls. And when you win a disagreement with calm and grace, you not only save your relationships, you earn respect too. Chapter 12, manipulate a person against his will and make him like it. Sounds dark? It's not what you think. This is about influence so subtle and so respectful, the other person believes the decision was theirs all along. You see, you can win over someone's mind, but if you can win over their beliefs, they'll carry out your idea, thinking it was their own. This is the most refined form of influence. One time, Sparkman was at a party. A man nearby was ranting. TV ads are garbage. Who even believes them? Sparkman didn't argue. He just smiled. Later, the man asked Sparkman, what do you do? Sparkman replied, I make ads, and those ads drive millions in sales. The man was stunned and a little defensive. But Sparkman gently said, I actually agree with you. Some ads are ridiculous. But have you noticed some ads actually touch the heart? Like that tea ad, he added. You know, the one with the mother and son? The man lit up. Oh, that one. I love that ad. I've shown it to so many people. And just like that, there was no debate. They were standing on the same side. Master rule of manipulation. People don't accept anything that feels forced on them, but if you bend their will slightly, they'll adopt your idea as their own truth. Tactic 1. Win the debate without the debate. Hudy used to say, to win an argument, don't challenge what someone says. Redirect it gently. Don't say, you're wrong. Say, what you're saying is valid, but there's one more perspective that might be worth exploring. Now, the other person doesn't feel attacked. They feel curious. Tactic 2. Use their own belief system. Don't try to replace their thinking. Build on it. If someone says, I don't need motivation, you respond, absolutely. That's probably why you stand out, because you pull yourself forward. But have you ever thought about how to spark that same fire in others? Now, you've connected your point to their pride. Tactic 3. The yes set technique. Hudy taught, if you can get someone to say yes 3 times, they're far more likely to say yes the 4th time. Try this. People trust your opinions, right? Yes. When you speak, they take you seriously, right? Yes. You think logically, right? Yes. Well, here's just one more idea. I think you might appreciate it. By the 4th question, their subconscious is already nodding along. Hudy once had a client who kept delaying repayment for weeks, but instead of demanding the money, he said this, brother, you're a smart guy. That's why I trusted you with this loan. I know you're someone who values his commitments, and that's the only reason I came to you. Now, the man had no way out. Paying back wasn't about the loan anymore. It was about protecting his image. And the best part? He believed it was his choice. Even in close relationships, when your partner doesn't agree, don't say, just do this. Say, how would it feel if you did it this way? Or, I actually think your way could work even better in this case. You're not giving instructions. You're inviting collaboration. And that is how influence truly works. Would you like to do it your own way? When someone feels they're making the decision themselves, even if it's your idea, they're far more likely to follow through. Hudy used to say, people can change their thoughts. You just have to make them feel like those thoughts were theirs all along. This chapter reminds us of a truth. People don't like commands, but they do respect opinions. If you want someone to follow your advice, make sure it feels like their own insight. This is the purest form of influence, winning a person's mind without a fight. It's easy to defeat someone, but the real mastery lies in guiding them to win with their own thoughts. When you use their language, protect their ego, and gently nudge their thinking, they don't feel manipulated. They feel understood. And that's when they follow your idea, thinking it was theirs. A little pressure has its place, but use it sparingly. Pressure can work, but push too hard, and people don't just resist, they rebel. Humans are like rubber bands. Pull them a little, they stretch. Pull too much, they either snap or they snap back. That's what happens when we put too much pressure on someone and then wonder why they stop listening. Sparkman once tried to sell an insurance plan to a customer. The customer seemed interested. He was listening. But Sparkman got too excited. He started listing feature after feature, highlighting every single benefit, and finally said, "Sir, you should sign this now, or you'll regret it later." And that's where he lost the sale. The customer's body language changed. He leaned back and said, "I need time to think." And he never returned. Hudy smiled and said, "You could have closed that deal, but you pressed too hard." Pressure makes people step back. When you push too much, the mind feels threatened, like someone is stealing its freedom. Even if the person was ready to say yes, now they'll say no just to protect their sense of control. Tactic 1. Show possibility, not pressure. Don't say, "You have to decide now." Instead say, "If you'd like, we can begin today," or "whenever you're comfortable." Now the person feels in charge, and wherever there's control, trust begins to grow. What about in relationships? Have you ever tried to force attention or love? Saying things like, "Why don't you talk to me anymore? You've changed. You don't care about my feelings." That's pressure, and people pull away from it. Instead say, "I know you're busy. Pashko, I just hope that when you're ready, we can talk." You open the door. You didn't try to push through it. Tactic 2. Apply pressure only at emotional peaks. Hudy always said, if you must use a little pressure, do it when someone is in an emotional state, not when they're purely logical. Because when emotions are high, even a soft touch can leave a deep impact. Once, Hudy was trying to ask a girl out to the movies. She kept saying no. So he smiled and said, "No worries, just wanted to know. If you ever feel like having a boring day, would you think of me?" She paused, smiled back and said, "All right, let's go today." That's called gentle pressure, the kind that touches the heart. Hudy said, if pressure feels like soft serve ice cream, people will enjoy it. But if it feels like a hammer, it only gives headaches. This chapter teaches us, more pressure creates more distance. Force doesn't work. Let people feel in control. Don't try to take their power. The truth is, a little pressure only works when your timing, tone, and touch are just right. Manipulation isn't about overpowering someone. It's a subtle art where you let the person walk on their own, but down a path you've quietly laid out. When your energy is gentle, people become more open. And that's where real connection begins. Chapter 14. When nothing else works, walk the dark alley of strategy, where people either win or lose everything. It's a sharp truth. Play fair, but only while the other side is playing fair too. Because the moment they switch to dirty games, you're left with two choices: step back or outsmart them in their own language. There was a time Sparkman was brought into a business deal with two other partners. They smiled to his face, but were secretly plotting to push him out. Sparkman stayed patient. He tried everything: meetings, emails, conversations. He stayed polite, respectful, and composed. Until one day, Hudy told him, "Brother, they're playing chess while you're offering tea. Time to beat them with their own tactics." Now, dirty doesn't mean deceit. It means smart, silent moves made with precision. Hudy guided him. Start recording your meetings. Keep proof of every mail. And when the time is right, lay it all out before the board. Sparkman did exactly that. And the result? The two scheming partners were kicked out. Sparkman became the sole owner. Tactic 1. When they twist the game, throw away the rulebook. Don't be evil, but don't be a fool either. If someone keeps using your goodness as a weapon, it's time to stop smiling and start strategizing, quietly. Hudy used to say, forgiveness is noble, but if someone keeps biting, sometimes you've got to break their teeth. Tactic 2. Indirect attack. Not loud, just smart. You don't always have to expose someone in public to defeat them. Sometimes you just need to connect with the right people in front of them. Control the narrative before it reaches them. And most importantly, think 2 steps ahead. That's smart revenge. No drama, just results. In business, say your competitor is spreading false things about your product. Don't respond publicly. Instead, reach out to their old customers, offer them something better, and let them expose the truth. Silent attack, strong effect. In relationships, when someone keeps lying, keeps manipulating, emotional talks won't help anymore. Start collecting contradictions, note down the lies, and one day, hold up the mirror. Lay it all out. Let them lose their own game on their own board. Hudy said, if someone traps you again and again in their chessboard, take the board away and send them off to play Ludo. This chapter teaches us, being kind all the time isn't always wise. Sometimes you have to be quietly clever. If someone breaks the rules, you don't have to play dirty, but you do have to play smart. Don't roll in the mud. Just make sure they fall in it. That's what the dirty way means, a silent strike, so sharp they never dare to play the game again. Goodness is important, but not blind goodness. Forgiving someone who keeps hurting you isn't kindness. It's betrayal of yourself. Be straight, but don't be a doormat. If someone's determined to bring you down, rise and hit back with such clarity they never try again. Chapter 15. How to crush ingratitude before it starts. Here's a bitter truth. The deepest wounds come from those you helped the most. You gave them your time, your money, your respect, your trust, and what did you get in return? You were forgotten, or worse, betrayed. When they needed you, you were their savior. Once they were done, you became a stranger. Sparkman once helped an old friend launch a business. He got him raw materials worth thousands, shared his contacts, even sat with him for planning. The friend kept saying, "You've made my dream come true. I'll owe you for life." But months later, that same friend partnered with another investor behind Sparkman's back. He erased Sparkman's name completely. Hudy shook his head and said, "The mistake wasn't that you helped. The mistake was letting your help turn into a habit." Understand this about human nature. If you help someone again and again, they stop seeing it as help. They start seeing it as a right. And the day you stop helping, they say, "You've changed." Because repeated favors turn gratitude into entitlement. Tactic 1. Never make a favor look free. If you're helping someone, don't make it look like it's nothing. Never say, "Oh, it's no big deal." Instead say, "I'm doing this because you matter to me. I hope you understand its value." Now the other person sees it as a favor, not a right. Tactic 2. Set boundaries from the start. Hudy used to say, the moment you start giving unconditionally, people start assuming you'll always be available. So whether it's a friend, relative, or client, after the first favor, make it clear. I helped because it was needed, but this won't be an everyday thing. Don't let your silence become an invitation for exploitation. In relationships, if your partner, friend, or sibling keeps using your kindness, tell them, "I'm always here for you, but I'm not a robot. I feel too." Let your humanity speak. Their guilt will follow, and so will their respect for your value. There was once a colleague who, in every meeting, would ask Sparkman for his notes, and Sparkman, being helpful, shared them every single time. But then one day, that same colleague took Sparkman's ideas, presented them as his own, and got promoted. That's when Hudy said something unforgettable. When you keep giving yourself away again and again, people stop giving you credit. That's when you need boundaries. He used to say, if you keep giving milk to someone every day, they stop seeing you as a person. They start seeing you as just a cow. This final tactic teaches us something powerful. Help others, but don't let your help become their habit. Let people feel your favors. Because if they stop feeling them, they'll start feeling entitled. Setting limits isn't selfish, it's wisdom. Because when there are no boundaries, people forget your worth. Sometimes you become someone's entire world. And before you know it, they start treating you like you're just something they own. There's nothing wrong with giving to others, but never give so much that you lose yourself in the process. It's better to protect your energy and give a little less than to give everything and be left with nothing. In the real world, victory doesn't go to the one who just tries to be good. It goes to the one who understands their own mind and then learns how to quietly enter the minds of others. If you've spent your whole life trying to just be nice, it's time you start playing the real game. Because life isn't a school where honesty wins you marks. Life is a battlefield, And here, your sharp mind, your wisdom, and your ability to read people, these are your real weapons. And that brings us to the end of The Art of Manipulation. If this book stirred something in you, a moment of clarity, a hidden truth, or a quiet strength you hadn't noticed before, then remember, awareness is your first defense and your greatest power. The world is full of people playing silent games, but now you're no longer blind to them. You're awake, you're watching, and most importantly, you're choosing your response. If you found value in this audiobook, do give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who might be walking through the same silent battles, and hit that subscribe button for more eye-opening journeys just like this. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay powerful, and stay kind. Take care.